Yeah, I think in general, it's been a while for me since I've worked, and it's given me a lot of time to reflect and have a lot of conversations. And in this business, things go public often, often against my wishes. When I like to have private conversations and then consider what options are and get to know people. And in the end, I was looking for something that inspired me, right? Both from a personal perspective and from a football perspective. And getting to know Kevin in this process, getting to know a lot of the ex-players, so St. Ricketts, Rob Friend, and then Angus Manab, and everybody really that invested in the process of getting to know me, getting to understand who I am and what I'm about, and how I think about football, how I think about people, how I think about leadership, and then the congruencies and symmetry that I think we all had together led me. Honestly, it was a relatively easy decision that once we could see that the fit was really good, then it was just a matter of, okay, how do we make this happen? And I give a lot of credit to Kevin. He was one of the best recruiters I've ever known in my life. And this was also a big part of it. Is I knew they wanted me. I knew that they felt I was right, and that feeling, that connection that we had, I think really motivated me to want to do this. And then the other part that you bring up, which is the player pool. Without the talent in this group, it would be a different conversation. And by the way, the way that I think about football and the qualities of this player pool, I think fit really well, and I will allow us, I think, to develop the team even further than where it's already been, which I think already been very successful. So kind of all the pieces coming together in a way that fit who I am is really what inspired me to take on this big responsibility. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think for our team to develop and grow, you have to play in the best games and against the best opponents and really understand what the level is all about. And this player pool has obviously had some big experiences already, but for sure, those first matches will give us a really good indicator and litmus test as to understanding how to employ all the things that we want to be about as we move forward. So, in general, I think that this business is so much about understanding how to be your best in very difficult and in the biggest moments. And so, yeah, we get some big matches right away, and we don't have a lot of time. But this is what will be important for me in general as a national team coach, is the ability to communicate my ideas very clearly, the ability for the players to understand how to execute the style of play, the match plans, also our leadership style, our communication style, all these things, the efficiency at which I'm able to lead this team from every perspective will dictate how successful and how quickly we can transform into the team I believe we can be. Well, I think even from my time that I just referenced when I was in Montreal, I could see that Canadian soccer was in some ways fractured, right? And there were different provinces and different teams and different places that had different influence. And I think a big part of our mission moving forward is to make sure that, especially leading into this home World Cup, that we find a way to unify everybody. And the fact that the three owners of the major clubs supported this entirely and helped make this happen, I think says a lot about their belief in me, their belief in the future. And also, it also, think says a lot about Kevin's ability to execute a plan. And that was something that I recognized early on with my conversations with Kevin, that he's a very serious person, that he has really good ideas, he's very intelligent, and he has experience at getting the job done. So I think when you're a football coach, when you're a sports coach, you're always looking for business people and structured people around you to help carry the load of a lot of the infrastructure and work that needs to be done so that we can be successful with what we're doing on the pitch. And I think for sure that the potential for the relationship that Kevin and I can have with a lot of the new leadership inside Canadian Soccer Association, I think is big and will give us a best opportunity to be successful. Yeah, look, we covered a lot. We discussed a lot of the experiences that we all had and how it will benefit us in the movement that we want to create moving forward. And that's what I think is really important to understand is, of course, my main job is to prepare this team to be a winner come 2026. But I also want to play a role in impacting the game in this country and modernizing the sport a little bit and using my experiences to help pass on information and in all ways just try to find ways to bring people together and learn and teach and provide what with my experiences. The 2010 World Cup, obviously, it gave me an insight as to how important every moment on the pitch matters, how important the preparation is for every match and for every opponent. And I think that set the tone for me in my entire career to understand the gravity of the biggest games and the biggest situations. And so, you know, when you do this for a living, those are the kinds of situations you want to be in, right? You want to put yourself in situations where no one's gone before, where you're tested to the highest limits, and you can then help everybody understand how to be at their best. And that's what I think Bob did really well with the 2010 group. And certainly that'll be our emphasis in our preparation for 2026 is we have an incredible player pool. We have so much potential in this group. And it'll be my job to help unify them, to help them understand all the ways that they can benefit themselves and each other, and how to help them execute an idea of how we want to play football and an idea of the mentality and personality that we want to have as a team. So, you know, that it requires so much every day, but that's what I love about being a coach. And that's what I'm so excited about this group and now leading this nation into a home World Cup. Yeah, well, I think first, some of the raw athleticism and team speed is obvious, right? And I like to play the game in transition. I like to be dynamic. I like to impose our will upon the opponent in all phases of the game. And I think that this player pool has both athleticism and intelligence, and then obviously football quality. But the combination of the intelligence and athleticism, I think, will provide us with an opportunity to be able to compete against the best teams in the world. And obviously, when you're playing against the best teams in the world, they often don't have huge glaring weaknesses, and the talent that they have from an individual perspective, it can be at the highest level that we've seen in the modern game. But the key for us will be collectively, right, as a group, to understand how to be at our best, how to manipulate the way that we want to play it with how we want to play against the opponents. And in the end, challenge everything that they want to do, make them uncomfortable, make them have to deal with our team speed and athleticism and intelligence. And so, yeah, I mean, it will take time for it all to come together completely in the way that I wanted to. But I really, really believe that this is a really good fit for me and for this player pool. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. You know, I had made a plea to the Team Canada and the Canadian Association shortly after my time in Montreal to be considered as the national team coach. So it has been on my radar. You know, and then I went on a European adventure. And I learned so much from that experience. I think when you compete in the game at the highest level, you learn so much about yourself and how you think about the game. It challenges you to be at your best at all moments. And, you know, in that process, I think I've become very clear with how I think about things. And I'm excited to use those experiences and my talents and to help this team and achieve some big things, right? And so, you know, it's not always the best thing to do to talk about grandiose goals when you first get started, right? You have to get to work, and that's the most important thing is the time that you spend with the team, and when you're on the pitch and you're teaching and they're learning and you're trying to come together. But again, I just really believe that this was the right moment in time for me, for this team, for Canada Soccer, for a home World Cup. It just the convalescence of so many things, I think, along with the leadership, has meant that, you know, I'm just really excited. I'm just really excited about the potential of what we can do. Yeah, I mean, first, my relationship with Morrow was always fantastic. He's a serious football guy. He's a hard worker. He cares about the team. He cares about the players. And I watched that also when they beat us in the playoffs. When he was in Montreal and I was in New York, and I was, as hard as it was because we had a really good team that year, I was really happy for Morrow, and I thought he did a really good job with that team, especially in that series against us. So Kevin already referenced the fact that Morrow has handled the last year in a really good way. And again, my respect level for Morrow is so high. And I hope to have a conversation with him about the possibilities of what could be the future and what a relationship could look like. So I'll be reaching out to him soon. That's for sure. Yeah, last night Jonathan David scored two more, right? So
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've said this already, but the player pool is clearly very strong. And when you see the game at the highest level up close, you also know how to help the best players, right? And you know how to create an environment where you can encourage players to get even better. You can challenge them to grow even more, to commit more, to be even better leaders, and have a better understanding of how to fulfill their role on the pitch. And ultimately, again, I believe that I'm the right guy for this team and that I can get a lot out of them. And that's what excites me. So you're right. There's some big moments right now in Canadian soccer history, and a lot of players playing at a very high level. And so it makes even selection for camps and for teams and everything. It'll be difficult, but that's what you want as a manager. You want options. You want competition. You want a full squad of players that can contribute. And I think for sure we have that. Yeah. So, first, before we made the announcement, we had a group call with all of the players just to get a chance to say hello and let them know that I'll be their new coach. And a big part of the work for me in the next 2 to 3 weeks will be having individual conversations, getting to know players, even traveling to meet with players personally to get their input on where they think the team is at, what's been good, how they think we need to move forward. And that's my way, is I really try to invest in people and bring out the best in them. And I feel if you can do that and create a real connection from a personal perspective, that actually coaching becomes the easy part. So clearly, I'll have to have a very strategic way of implementing exactly what we need, and starting with the most important principles, and make sure that they are clear and that understood, so that the players can execute that. And then, like you said, playing Argentina in the first match of Copa America is a big challenge, but a massive opportunity. And so that's I think how we will treat it. We will want to play brave. We will want to go after them. We will want to still try to stay true to the things that we want to be good at. And this will be the case no matter who we're playing. And the key will be to make our identity clear and ingrained in every game, every training session, every time we're together. How clear can we make the way that we want to play? So obviously a national team job is different than a club job. But if you look at most of the club jobs that I've had in the recent years, we've been in Champions League. When you're in England, it feels like you play every other day. So you have to be always creative with the ways that you're communicating how you want the team to perform. And so obviously training is one element of that. But video review, tactical reviews, individual conversations, individual video sessions, we'll have to use all of the different resources that we have to communicate with each individual within the team, groups of the team, like working with the back line clearly, working with the attacking players clearly, and making sure that all these pieces and roles are connected in a way that empowers them to go out and ultimately compete and play with everything they have. And that's the goal of the way that I try to coach, is to not confuse them with tactics and concepts, but to empower them. And so, yeah, there will be challenges in communicating that in sometimes smaller windows. But, the key is, again, time. window, training session by training session, day by day, experience, match by match, experiences that we have together, that we learn from them, that we grow into them, and that we create as even a learning curve as possible to give us the best chance to be at our absolute best come 2026. Yeah, well, you're right. Winning CONCACAF in World Cup qualifying was a massive, massive achievement. And it, I think, has changed the dialogue, certainly for this group of players, right? Certainly for the expectations that they have of themselves. And yeah, along with that come, certain pressures and the awareness that we have to meet even bigger goals. And I think we shouldn't be afraid of that. I think we should be ready to take this responsibility on fully, to understand that we need to emerge in the group with US and Mexico as the three powers of CONCACAF. And I think that, that case can already be made. And then the question is, can we push on to continue to move the needle of the sport in this country, right? And that's from a youth level, from a development perspective, and now continue to push the program and the sport in our country so that we can develop and compete more and more at the international level. So of course that means every tournament, Copa America, Gold Cup, Nations League, and certainly the World Cup, that we want to put our best foot forward, that we want to perform at our absolute best and compete for trophies. That's ultimately what we're in this for. So I'm excited about that challenge. The competitor in me is excited about, I have so much respect for the U.S. national team and for the Mexican national team. And I think that those challenges will be big, but there's no reason with this player pool that we can't push ourselves to be certainly in that conversation and hopefully win some trophies here. Yeah, well, certainly some attacking weapons, right? Like some real quality, explosive players up the pitch. I think some really intelligent players in and around the midfield, and then a defensive group that wants to compete, that wants to win duels, that wants to play strong. So overall, and by the way, a good balance of some older players and some up and coming young big talents. So, overall, I think the balance of what we have is really quite good. And it'll be, listen, I've spent probably the last 3 or 4 days watching videos of all the players and really trying to get to know them more in depth as what their qualities are, what their strengths are, what the things that they need to do, I think, to continue to improve, and how it will fit into what we're going to try to build here with the full team. So, I've already gotten to know a bunch. I've talked to a lot of coaches that have coached them to get to know them as people and what they're like on a daily basis, what they bring to teams, how vocal are they, what kind of leaders are they workers, what are their best strengths and positions, and all these things. So, but the most important thing will be for me to get my hands in with the team and then really start working closely to understand exactly what the potentials are of each player and of the group overall. But in general, I think I don't see how you couldn't be excited, right? We had somebody mention before about all the goals that are being scored in Europe. I think all the players that are establishing themselves in MLS, like there's a lot of options for me to choose from right now. And so I'm excited and I'm ready to get started.